Ready, it's 2:30. Yeah, of course. Hi, all. It's 2:30, so I think it's that time we should get going. My flying carpets, it really works on time. If I don't get in my flying carpet to get to Seattle on time, it'll leave without me. So I have to be on time. Thank you so much for coming, and let's just quickly bow our head in prayer before we get going. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity to share information and wisdom about the aging process. We know that you look out for us, but we also know that you require us to do what we need to do before we look to you. We hope you give us the strength to be good to ourselves, to those who are less fortunate than us, and give us the strength always to do right. In your name we pray. Amen. So, how many of you are aging in this room? How many of you are aging? If you're not aging, you're in the wrong room. That's a different room that you need to get into. So the reason why I start the question about aging is, I am an elder law attorney. And the qualification for someone to be an elder law attorney is, you must be at least 120 years of age, so that qualifies me to be an elder law attorney. If you are aging, you probably have done some retirement planning. You've done some amount of work to get ready for your future years, right? Is there anyone here who has not done any planning? So everyone's done some planning. And this book that I wrote is called Your Retirement, Dream or Disaster. Where do you think you're going to end up in this paradigm of those two polar opposites? What do you think your retirement is going to look like? How many of you know that your retirement is going to be a dream all the way to the end? God, I hope so. Look at this. I mean, we got majority of the hands. I don't know whether I should raise my hand up there or not. And how many of you think that you'll probably end up dealing with some disasters in your life before it's all over? A few of us, well, majority of us. And isn't that a shame? And that's what I want to talk about today is to, why is it that, and this is something that I do nationally, I go talk to people of all shades of gray, and usually I'll start this way and say, how many of you think you've got it all figured out? A few hands will go up. How many of you think you still need to do something because with what you have, it's not going to turn out the way you're hoping to turn out? More hands will go up. And that just breaks my heart, because look at it this way. When you think about retirement, majority of us can honestly look inward and say, we've been working on some variation of a retirement plan. We've done something about retirement. And truth be told, you have been working on your retirement plan ever since you got your first paycheck. What comes out from your first paycheck? Social Security. No, taxes are the irritation part. But Social Security and Medicare. And what are Social Security and Medicare? They're the foundational building blocks of retirement in America. So we've been working hard all our life trying to pull things together. And when you think about what retirement planning is, let me see if I can nail down how you are approaching retirement planning. So retirement planning, typically speaking, first turns out to be a financial issue for the average person, right? We remember the Social Security, Medicare taxes, they're taking that out. And then somewhere along the lines, as we get a little bit more savvy, we are no longer 18 or 20, we are now 25 and 30, we start looking at things like, maybe I need to squirrel some money away into IRAs and 401k plans. And then we'll go see financial planners. Am I doing the right thing? Where should I go? You become a little bit older, and then as you're a little bit older, then you're going to look at things like long-term care insurance policies, annuities. You want to diversify your portfolio. And so maybe in addition to a financial planner, you've also added an insurance agent in the mix. Then we get closer to about 62, 65, 67, and voila, we got some free money from Social Security. So we go running down to Social Security, and we want to claim our money. Then the government does crazy things like they'll introduce new products like Roth IRAs. What the heck is a Roth IRA? It's a tax advantage retirement plan. So are you telling me that I've been putting money in a tax disadvantage retirement plan? Clearly, this has something to do with taxes, so maybe we need to go see a CPA. Is this something that I should be doing, or how should I work with this? And then, the older we become, now that we are retired, we might even start looking at other products, like reverse mortgages. And so go see a mortgage broker. And this is just a list of, small list of people and efforts that you're going to expend over your lifetime trying to get ready for retirement. And truth be told, if you go home today and Google the word retirement planning, see what shows up. You will have over 4 million hits on that term, and almost every single one of those hits is going to be about money. So at first blush, retirement planning looks like financial planning. So, okay, I've got all that taken care of. Then you turn 65. And when you turn 65, you're going to start looking at health insurance. I need to look into Medicare. Should I get traditional Medicare? Should I get Medicare Advantage? What is the donut hole? We go see running insurance agents to go and do that. And truth be told, almost nobody in the entire country that I've talked to, there's seldom a person who walks up and says, oh, I'm so supremely confident about the choice I've made, right? But we muddle through that process somehow through an insurance agent. And then a few of us are going to get surprises. Oh, we don't accept Medicare. And then you're going to be looking for a new doctor, right? So we got financial done, we got health done, I'm ready for retirement. Not quite. Somewhere along the way, you're also going to be introduced to legal concepts. You want a trust, you want a power of attorney, you want a living will, you want to go see a lawyer. So we got all that done. Is that all? No, not really. You're getting close, because you're going to get a little bit older. By the time you're about 70-ish, 65, 70-ish, many of us are going to start looking at where we are living. Is the house that we are living in, is this age-friendly? Now, mind you, this is not stuff we're going to look at in the 50s. This is the stuff we're going to look at 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s. Is the house age-friendly? Should I have somebody come in, help me figure out what do I need to do to change the house to make it age-friendly? Then we'll go maybe even hire the services of a handyman, go in a ramp and make some changes to the house. How is this going to impact my children? And somewhere after you had your first bout with illness, you're going to start thinking about, oh boy, I wonder if the house is really where I want to live. Maybe we should be calling a mover or a real estate company. But that's not all. The older you become, the first time that you fall ill, you will start realizing that your life is going to impact everyone in your life. And for the first time, it really, in a real way, it'll dawn on you that aging is a family affair. So when you think and look at what we do by way of retirement planning, this is the typical way a person is going to cobble together their retirement plan, and this may take several years to do it. It just doesn't happen overnight, right? So that's your retirement plan. Have I missed out any big efforts that somebody, you in the audience, you have done that is different than this?
How you spend your time.
How do you spend your time? Right. So that's something that you're thinking about, that I need to stay meaningfully engaged with life, right? And so this church happens to be one of the better places you can go ahead and do that. And of course, there are all sorts of other things you can do, whether you're Rotarian, which I am, you belong to a service club, or you serve humanity, or whatever your interests are, you're going to do that. That's a good point. But for the most part, is there anything from a planning perspective we've missed out on this list, ma'am?
Whether to be buried in a plot or to be cremated.
Right, so that's end of life. Remember, we are not quite dead yet. We will be there someday. I'm talking about while we are living. And isn't that also a telling statement that you make? Because when you think about, what do I need to worry about? The average person's reaction to retirement is, oh, I need to make sure that I leave everything okay for other people who I leave behind when I die. We worry more about death than we worry about living. And that's a common theme. So this is retirement planning. So you've done all that planning, and what are you hoping to accomplish with this planning? Well, with all that planning in place, you want to be able to travel, spend time with friends and family, pursue hobbies, pick up a new skill, volunteer, and do things you want to do. The day that you retire, for the first time in your life, it'll occur to you that now I can do what I want to do. I don't have to listen to anyone else. This is the time what I do. But there's a little voice in the back of your head. There's a little voice that'll nag at you. And that nagging voice will say, boy, I hope I don't run into these disasters. What is the biggest disaster you're going to be worried about? the single biggest fear that any retiree is going to have is going to be falling ill and ending up in an institutional care setting against your wishes, running out of money, or becoming a burden on other people. So when you look at retirement planning, and I studied this subject for years, I've studied this subject, and said, you know, when you look to professionals who are helping you cobble together all these different pieces, we talk about these things as a secondary. The primary focus in retirement planning is how to make sure that you're going to live a good, healthy, happy life. And this story comes to me from this couple called Bill and Vivian Wallace. And let me give you a background about why this is important. How many of you can tell that I was probably not born in Waco, Texas? Right? So I'm born in India. I jumped on my flying carpet many years ago, and I came to America. Why? Because I had heard the streets of America are... Raise your hands if you buy that story. And I'm so glad that you do, because I raise all three of my kids and say, you will never know how true that statement is. You come here, you work hard, you play by the rules, and you usually will get somewhere. There's no guarantee you'll succeed, but usually you will be somewhere where you couldn't be where you came from. So with that, I had moved to Seattle. I was working for Allstate insurance companies. And my wife, the young lady sitting on Vivian's lap, she happened to be insured by Allstate insurance companies. She had wrecked her car on the way to see her parents. The good hands had come apart, and somebody had dumped her file on my desk to make this angry client a happy client. And in one of these phone conversations, she asked me, where are you from? And I said, from India. She said, I thought so. I have relatives from India. Really? Where? Turns out her oldest sister, who was living in Boston, she had died. And her husband had remarried somebody from Sri Lanka. That then opened the door to a very personal conversation. And we settled the claim. I asked her to marry me. She said yes. I said, score. And then we went to see her family. Bill and Vivian were your typical, prototypical middle-class Americans. Bill worked as a mail carrier for the postal system. Vivian worked as a nurse for the hospital system. They raised 5 kids. And when they looked at retirement, their retirement idea was that let's have a house that is paid for, pay off the house. We don't want to go into retirement with debt. Let's accumulate as much money as we can, a few $100,000 in the bank. Because surely between Social Security, Medicare, and our debt-free lifestyle, we should be able to skate through retirement. And they had their dreams. Remember the dream part of it? They were going to jump in the RV, go do the American highways and the byways. But sadly, in this case, the RV never left the house. Why? Because Bill gets diagnosed with Alzheimer's the last year of his work life. Vivian, who's a nurse, she was looking forward to going and doing these road trips. She looks inward and says, well, that's not going to happen, but I'll see to it that my husband never ends up in a nursing home. And so for 6 or 7 years, she bashes her head against the wall, and she does everything to keep Bill at home. But eventually, Bill's condition gets to a point that he stops recognizing Vivian. He starts wandering away from the house, looking for his wife, looking for his home. And at that time, then Vivian turns to the doctor and says, Doc, I need help. I can't take care of 5 acres of land and Bill in this condition. I need you to give me a hand. And the doctor says, Vivian, you as a nurse, more than anyone else, should know that there is no answer to what Bill has. He belongs in a nursing home. And so that's how he ends up in a nursing home. And the first time that I saw Bill was when he was in the nursing home. So Jamie and I had gone back to see her mom after I had proposed to her, and she said yes. And on the way back, she says, I want to stop and say hi to my dad. Now, mind you, I knew Bill had Alzheimer's, didn't really understand what Alzheimer's was. And I knew he lived in a nursing home. And I promise you, I didn't have a concept of what a place called a nursing home would be. And we went and spent 2 very awkward hours in this nursing home. Bill had lost his speech by now. But he saw Jamie, he burst out in the biggest of grins. And after about 2 hours of very awkward exchange, we were trying to say goodbye and leave. And there was Bill holding on to his little girl, thinking that she was there to take him home. And she was just bawling. And we were standing near one of the doors where you can enter the key code, where you could enter the key code and leave. And some worker notices this commotion near the door, comes running over, taps Bill on the shoulder long enough so he could distract Bill. So we could enter the key code and leave, and Bill was exactly where we found him. And for the first time in so many years in America, I walk away asking myself, how does the richest country in the entire world take care of the old people when they can no longer care for themselves? And so after Jamie and I get married, I had to do something. This was so unsettling. And I told Jamie, I said, if that's my dad, I guarantee you, this is not what's going to happen to him. We will take care of him at home. That's what the whole world does. And if that's good enough for my dad, then it should be good enough for your dad. So, how do you do that? Well, the only answer I knew how to do that, Vivian, why don't you come move in with us? And after hemming and hawing, for a good 6 months or so, she finally agrees to move in. And Bill moved to a nursing home in Seattle, from Spokane, Washington to Seattle, Washington, and Vivian moved in to live with us. Now I get to see Bill up close every day. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I'm scratching my head and saying, why is this man in the nursing home? Why am I asking the question? Because every time I'd see him, he's either in a wheelchair or in bed. That's the condition. He had changed. He was no longer walking out. Well, he's incontinent. He's unambulatory. He needs people to care for him. Really. If that's the litmus test why we as human beings should no longer be able to live at home, then about a third of the real world should be living in some jungle somewhere. Is there any way you could take him back home? Of course there is. How do you do that? Well, you just hire a bunch of people, go take care of him at home. Oh, so this turns out to be a financial issue. I'm talking about finances. House paid for, a few $100,000 in the bank. In the 6 or 7 intervening years that Bill was in the nursing home, Vivian spent all the savings that she had, and somebody in the nursing home looked at her and said, oh, Mrs. Wallace, you need to apply for a program called Medicaid. It's called Medi-Cal in California. It's Medicaid, pretty much the rest of the country. And, well, how do you do that? Well, you just have to apply for that. We are not a charity. We are going to get paid for what we do for your husband. And she had applied for Medicaid, and our government was paying $5,500 each month to keep Bill in the nursing home. Now, remember, at this time, I'm not a lawyer. I'm working for all state insurance companies. This is all Arabic to me. Just don't understand how the system works. So I'm saying, okay, it's going to cost the government pays $5,500. How much will it take to keep him at home? Well, it depends how much care you need. Arguably, if you need 24/7 care, it'll be cheaper in the nursing home. Because in the nursing home, you're dividing the cost with 8 or 10 people. At home, it's one-on-one care. And I'm looking at Bill. This man is nowhere close to getting 24/7 care. He's got somebody who wakes him up in the morning between 7 and 8, takes him down to the dining room, leaves him there, 6 people around a horseshoe table, 1 person feeding 6 people, 1 hour. Clean them up, put them in another group, take them down to the room, again in the daytime, again at night. When's the last time that you've gone to any nursing home and seen that the people who live there are the ones who actually are enjoying the gardens that we spend thousands of dollars maintaining? For half the amount of money, we could have brought Bill back home. Why half? We needed some help in the morning, some at night. Between Jamie and Vivian and me, we would be able to take care of it most of the day. That's how the whole world does it. Great, let's go to Medicaid. Let's get in line and say, we want to stand in line to be the first ones to find a way to save you money. What do you think the answer is? Oh no, the program allows him to access Medicaid in the nursing home setting. You can take him home, you'd have to pay privately. So then you start looking at this stuff and saying, what planning has Bill done? Surely he's done planning. This is not the first time that a human being is going through this stuff. He must have done some planning. Well, it turns out he had done everything that that I described to you in that puzzle was. He had a lawyer. I started with a lawyer. How does our system work that we are willing to pay twice the amount of money to keep Bill in this nursing home, even though for half that amount of money we could have brought him back home? Oh, that's not the work I do. The doctor, oh, I don't know what to tell you. The financial planner, that's not something. You should have bought a long-term care insurance policy. So I'm looking at all these people and saying, let me understand this proposition. Bill paid you money over the life. Nobody just did anything for them for free. He paid people this money, and yet in the end, the day he has Alzheimer's, everyone scatters, it's not my job, it's not my job. Who did their job? That's what put me back into law school. In 1999, I started law school. In 2001, second year law school, the day I take my last final exam is the day Bill takes his last breath in the nursing home. Even though I had taken my one and only elder law class in law school, there is no truth to the fact Medicaid does not cover care at home. It does. But which Starbucks are you going to meet Mr. Medicaid? Indeed, who is Mr. Medicaid? Who's going to give you this information? The social worker working in the hospital or the nursing home who's going to give you this information. How much education does a social worker have about these highly complex programs? Even lawyers have a hard time keeping up with. That was Bill. Vivian lived with us another 6 years after the fact. Died of kidney cancer that had metastasized to her bones. Incontinent, unambulatory, unable to care for her needs. For all the reasons why Bill ended up in the nursing home, Vivian should have spent somewhere between 6 months to something longer in a care facility. Vivian got to take her last breath, sleeping on the same pillow she'd always slept on, surrounded by their family. And that's not the amazing part, that she would live at home. The amazing part was not for one single day did we look to Medicaid to help us in any way, shape, or form. That's the story that I can bring up, because I promise you, before you walked in, or many of the people, indeed, Tom, a young man that I was talking to, he says, oh, I think I've got it all taken care of. I have a long-term care policy. In my heart, I cry because I know you are focused on the wrong things. It's not that you haven't done the planning. There's something missing with the planning, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Because when you start asking yourself, what are the odds that you become Bill or Vivian? Who do you want to be? I want to be Vivian. No doubt, hands down, I want to be Vivian. What are the odds you'll be Vivian and not Bill? The good news in all of this is, majority of us will get to enjoy our dreams to some extent. Why? Because the first time that we retire, we will have health, we will have money, and we will have a bucket list. And we'll get to do everything we want to do, at least for some time. But the deeper we go into retirement, here's the reality. Even though nobody wants to end up in a care facility, there's a 70% chance you will not be in your own home when you're taking your last breath. You're going to be in a hospital, in a hospice house, or some care facility where you were hoping never to end up. There's a 69% chance that after you fall ill, you will start feeling guilty inside. Oh my God, I've become the very burden I was hoping not to become to my loved ones. And there's almost a 100% guarantee that you and I will lose some of our money to uncovered medical and care costs, your deductibles, your co-payments that we make. A few of us are going to get wiped out in the process. And when you take a look at what are the odds that you'll at least run afoul of one of these three things, oh, that's a whopping 90% plus. That's the reason why I do what I do. It is unbelievable to me that with all the planning that we end up doing in America, the average person walks away with a 70% chance of not being able to live out at home. 69% chance I become a burden that I didn't want to become. And almost a 100% guarantee we are going to lose some of our wealth, and people like Bill and Vivian, they get wiped out in the process. So how do you, go ahead.
What was the average age that you did 69 or 70 or 90%?
So when I'm quoting these averages, this is age blind. So I'll show you the studies that we are going to be talking about, right? So Stanford does a study, there's a Harvard study that just came out on the whole thing, and they're age blind. They're looking at where people die. There's a study called Where Americans Die. It's a very complex study. When you take a look at it, in the aggregate, 70% of Americans don't die at home. This is not age related. So I bet if I look deeper into the whole thing and said, how many people over the age of 70 die at home, that number will be even higher. This is just the average where Americans die. All right, so now why does that happen? Here's the real question, why does that happen? And I'll show you why it happens. Here's how, with whatever planning you've got done right now, so you saw a financial planner, you got your money, you got your long-term care insurance policy, you got a house paid for, you've done everything, right? How does it play out? Here's how it plays out. As long as you remain healthy, As long as you remain healthy, you're living your dream. The moment you lose your health is when your nightmare begins, right? You fell down, you broke your hip, you had a stroke, you became paralyzed, you ended up in the hospital. They saved your life. Thank you. Which rehab center do you want to go to? Another place that I don't know anyone, I'm guaranteed people are going to tell me what to do. I'll have zero control over my life. No, I want to go back home. That's not the way it works, not especially if you're seniors. So a health issue, almost immediately, for most older people, retirees, is going to become a housing issue. Housing issue is next going to become a financial issue. Why? Your health insurance system, Medicare, it says, go have a heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, cholesterol, we'll cover it all. As long as a doctor, pharmacy, or a hospital, somebody in this community can make money off your misery, it's all covered. But if you have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, old age, frailty, mind you, everything we are more likely to deal with as we age. These are not things we deal with at 25 and 30. None of these things are covered in any meaningful way by your healthcare system. Why? There's no medicine that's going to get you better. What you need is someone to cook for you, clean for you, get you out of bed, get you into the shower. Everything that is done by home care, home health, assisted living, and nursing homes, not covered by your healthcare system. And the cost, if you're lucky, a few $1,000s a month, upward of $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. And is it a one-time check you write? No, no, no. This is every month you're living, you're going to write. Health becomes housing, becomes financial. If you are lucky, somebody will look to you and say, look, you need to go see an elder law attorney. And your gut reaction will be, I don't need to see a lawyer. I've got my wills, trust, powers of attorney. I got all those documents done. No, no, no. These attorneys will help you find a way to cope with these crazy expenses you're dealing with. But if you go to the right elder law attorney, here's what you're going to figure out. The real question is not just how to save money. That's important. But what's more important? How do I take care of Bill's life so he can live as good a quality of life as he can under the conditions, probably a housing issue, without him going out of money, and without the rest of the family losing their sanity in the process. How many of you have taken care of an aging parent in your lifetime, or an aging relative? And how many of you almost lost your sanity in the process? Right? So just because somebody says, I don't want to be a burden, do not be disillusioned by the fact the reality is the day that you fall ill, everyone that you love is going to be stuck in your life. The only question will be, how well prepared are they and how much time do they have? This is how it's going to play out. Predictably, I'll tell you, this is the way it's going to play out. Now, when you take a look at how do you change the odds? Well, it's not that difficult to change the odds. That's why I do what I do. It's not that difficult. You have not a retirement plan. What you need is a life plan. What you need to have, not legal documents, you need manuals of operations. And you need to start realizing that as we grow old, not a single legal document that you're going to sign, not a single document that you have signed is a document you will use. Have you ever thought about that? I mean, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars working with lawyers, hundreds or thousands of dollars working with lawyers. Not a single document will you use. When you die, you're not going to read your trust, are you? You better not be. Somebody else better be reading that trust. When you become ill, you're not reading a power of attorney. These are the three missing pieces. It's not that you don't have the pieces there, but what you have is probably not going to fit. And what do you get when you put all these three things together? This is your way out to make sure that I have a plan that helps me stay away from institutional care without becoming a burden and without going broke. So let's dig into that. Let's start talking about the first ingredient in there, the life plan. And I'll keep reminding you again that, I talk to people all over the place, and the first gut reaction of people is to tell me what we already have done. And I want affirmation that what I have done is correct. And I'm not here to judge what you have got is right or wrong. I'm just here to tell you, over 23 years and taking care of about 8,000 or 10,000 cases and running a couple of studies, what I find in the real world. So what's a life plan? Here's what a life plan is going to be. Is going to recognize that your plan has been put together around these 5 key pillars: health, housing, finance, legal, family. To put it all together, you've seen one heck of a lot of people. There are way too many cooks in the kitchen. There is no master plan, and there is no organization to how you put it together. It's whether you studied it, you heard it in TV, you heard it in radio, you just cobbled it all together. And that will give you a 90% chance of failure. Now, here's the reason why. This is where education starts. That was all the background. Why will your plan fail? Because there are two views about retirement planning in America. What is the first view? You have a view about what you want to have your retirement look like. What do you want your retirement to look like? I want to travel, spend time with friends and family, and do fun stuff. What do you not want to have happen to you in retirement? If I fall ill, do not put me in a care facility against my wishes. Make sure I don't die broke. Make sure I don't become a burden to other people. That's your view, right? Now, here's the litmus test. Is your plan good enough? Here's the litmus test. Ask yourself this brutally honest question. Have you ever in your entire life worked with anyone who's helped you in health, housing, finance, legal, who's looked back to you and said, I will help make sure that you don't end up in a nursing home and you don't become a burden on your loved ones? Has anyone ever said that to you as a goal? And the answer is no. That's not what professionals are focused on. That's the reason why your plan is not going to fail. It's not that you don't have the pieces are there. But the focus of the pieces is entirely very different. You have gaps and holes in your retirement plan. Where are the gaps and holes? Let's dig into that. Let's start with healthcare. Remember, so I got 5 pillars that I'll talk about, and make sure that everyone's with me on the same page. The first pillar is healthcare. Health will become housing. Housing will become financial. Financial will become legal. And then all along the way, your life is a family affair. Keep that in mind. If you do not thread all these 5 needles, your plan is not what you think it is. Let's talk about where the holes are in your retirement plan when it comes to healthcare. The average person's healthcare idea is to turn 65, enroll in Medicare, and buy a supplement plan. Why is that important? Because if I fall ill, I want to make sure that I have access to care. I don't want to be left on the side of the road, right? I want to be able to be sure that I can access care. Now, what's wrong with that plan? The system says, we will take care of you after you fall ill. Who do you not find in a nursing home? Sorry? Actors? Doctors. Oh, sadly, that's not quite true. You find doctors in nursing homes also. Not as many, but you do find them. No, not that. Who do you not find in a nursing home? Healthy people. That's who you don't find. What is the focus of your healthcare system? The day that you fall ill, come look us up, we'll take good care of you. You've already lost the battle. The first shot has not been fired. The focus of our healthcare system, why is the focus caring for you after you fall ill? How does the healthcare system make money? When you're healthy or when you're ill? There's your answer. Follow the money. Everything that comes out from the healthcare system is going to be about curing illnesses, where your goal in reality should be, no. If I want to stay the heck out of a care facility, then I have to learn how to use the system so I can stay healthier longer. I can help myself not fall ill. How do you do that? Eat right, exercise, socialize, and pick the right people on the medical team. Well, that was a news flash for everyone, right? Wrong. It was not. Now, who's going to make you eat right, exercise, socialize? Either you're going to do it or you don't. Jumping to conclusions 11 times a day is not exercise, is it? But can you do something about the right medical team? For that, I want you to meet a guy called Dr. Chad Bolt, research physician at the University of Minnesota. Conducts a very unusual study. He looks at 568 people all over the age of 70. And the reason why he enrolled them in the group is because they were going to see a health decline in the near term, either cognitive or functional, something was going to happen. Divides the group into 2 groups. Group A, keep seeing your regular doctors, internal medicine, family medicine. Writes a letter to these doctors, says, we think your patient is at a high risk of falling ill. You should pay attention to them. You should keep an eye on them. Puts them on notice. The other group, Go see this group of specialists called geriatricians. 18 months go by, looks at the study. How are people doing? People who were seeing geriatricians, 50% less depression, 40% less use of home care and home health, and 33% less disabilities. Let me repeat the middle one again to you. 40% less use of home care and home health. What does your life look like when you don't need home care and home health? You're nowhere close to being in a nursing home. That's what life looks like. And who in the healthcare system turned to you and said, remember when you had children, you were taking care of kids. If they fell ill, you probably took them to see a pediatrician. Why? They specialize in children. Does that mean your doctors are dumbass? No. It just means that the physiology of children is different than the rest of the population. Same way the physiology of people over the age of 70 is different than the rest of the population. Medication that is good at 30 and 40 and 50 becomes the reason why you may be showing signs of dementia at 70 and 80 and 90. That's the last time anyone has said that if you're going to use your health insurance, then you demand that health insurance has a large enough cohort of board-certified geriatric doctors, because if you just see a board-certified geriatric doctor, the study shows, because of their knowledge about how your physiology is different, they will treat you a little bit differently. That'll help you stay out of care facilities by 40%. Yes, ma'am?
So are you recommending then that we switch our, internists or the doctors that we see now to to the geriatric doctors?
So the question, I don't know whether you heard it or not, the question is, are you suggesting that we change from an internal medicine doctor to a geriatric doctor? I'm saying, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you. If I was in your shoes, I'd probably be running, looking for a geriatric doctor. Same way when our children were little, I took them to a pediatrician, didn't take them to our doctor. And we loved our doctor a lot. But what you do with this information, I'll leave to you. I'm here just to report what I'm finding. And I think you have to make a decision, because 90% of Americans love their doctors. 90% of Americans say, oh, our doctor is great. They give us referrals. They give us this. They can only give you a referral if they have the core education, that this is time to go ahead and give them a referral. It's going to be up to you what you do with this. And this is just one example of what you can do. There's so many studies that are out there. There's so many studies. There's a study that comes out from Eastern Finland University. How many of you have a family connection of dementia in your life? Anyone, mom, dad, brother, sister, somebody had dementia? The study that comes out from Eastern Finland University that says that people who use a sauna in those countries every day compared to the people who don't use a sauna, 66% less dementia, 50% less cardiovascular issues. How does a sauna keep dementia away? You put your body into a furnace, your heart is racing, your blood is circulating, you're perspiring. What happens when you're exercising? Your heart is racing, your blood is circulating, you're perspiring. It's not about sauna, it's about how active you are. And there's research that's happening right here in your backyard, UCLA, that is showing it's better to give people a prescription to go jogging, walking, rather than Aricept and Namenda. It's going to get published in about a year and a half. This is just uncanny stuff. This is just one example. And in my book that I wrote down, I give you all these studies, saying we have to stop thinking that a system that is dependent on financial gains by curing illnesses all of a sudden is going to change its tune and say, let's show you how not to fall ill. Not going to happen. Matt.
My question is to say there are many people that have UCLA as their carriers. And in this valley and in the valley on the other side of Simi and so forth, there were two geriatric doctors.
Yeah.
You never get in, and they were wonderful at the beginning. Now, one of them is left because they're being treated so poorly, but there aren't geriatric doctors.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. And I think there is some truth to that. But in my practice, I practice in the state of Washington. I have managed to go ahead and come up with a complete list of geriatric doctors. So if any of my clients says to me, Rajiv, I need to see a geriatrician, good luck finding it online, but I'll give you the name and I'll make sure that within 3 months you have a geriatrician. It's not that they're not there, they're hard to find. But don't confuse hard to find with that they're not there. You just have to do your work. That's healthcare, sir.
What is the difference of the financial law between your insurance for people staying house care and the other plans?
Right. I want you to hold that question because I'm going to nail that question right on the head. I will. So hold on to that question. I'll come to that. So we talked about healthcare, right? Let's talk about housing for a second. What is your housing plan? I bet the average person's housing plan, including probably yours, is, I want to hang on living in my house as long as I can. I mean, look at that house. It's a beautiful house. I've been living here all along. Why would I want to leave this place? But when the day comes that I can't take care of myself, we'll figure something out, right? AARP has been doing studies forever. I can go back 20, 25 years. They've been doing the study, where do you want to take your last breath? In my own home. 90% of Americans say that. How many people actually die at home? 30% of Americans are going to actually take their last breath at home. This is the study. This is one of the studies that I cite. Even though everyone wants to live out their life at home, 30% of Americans die at home. That means your chances are 70% you're not at home when you're taking your last breath. And that's the gap. Why does that gap happen? Because think about what you say. I don't think anyone in their right mind is going to say, I want to live my life at home as long as I can. Who came up with this as long as I can thinking? Who's the real estate industry? Who's the housing industry? Real estate agents, mortgage brokers, and retirement communities. That collectively is that industry. How does this industry make money? Transactions. Sell a house, buy a house, take a mortgage, move into a retirement community. So obviously, it makes sense for that industry to go ahead and say, hey, stay in your own home as long as you can. And when the time comes, you got choices. We'll figure something out. And yet we find out that no consumer, probably in their right mind, is saying that I want to stay here as long as I can. What you really want to be saying is, I want you to help me with building that plan that assures me that the day that I fall ill, the care is coming to me, I'm not moving on that day. My family is not stuck as my unpaid caregiver in the process. And if my family is not going to be the caregiver, I'm hiring people, make sure that I'm not going to go broke paying for all these care costs. To me, I think that makes a whole lot more sense than to go ahead and say that I want to live in my house as long as I can, but that's not how we approach the whole issue. So the first question you should ask me is this, okay, Messiah, how are you going to turn water into wine when 70% of Americans cannot see that happen in their lives? And I'll say, not only do I say that you can actually have a hope of living out your life in your own home, but you can accomplish that. There sadly exists an industry that every single one of us in this room is familiar with that will say to you that if you can ever qualify to receive the services from this industry, not everyone, just a handful of us, if you ever can qualify, this industry will leave no stone unturned to bring you back home. I guarantee it, you know the name of the industry. Can you tell me what the name of that industry is? Hospice. Remember, hospice, when you have less than 6 months to live. Rajiv, how would you like to spend the last 6 months of your life in your own home? Of course I would. Who would not? We'll help make it happen. Really? How? What are you going to do? We'll pull together a multidisciplinary medical team headed by a social worker, OT, PT, somebody, go to the house, take a look, what will it take? Oh, Rajiv needs a hospital bed, respirator, grab bar, safety equipment, make it all happen. Oh, don't stop there. Send a nurse. Send a counselor. Send a bath aide. Give every family member an 800 number they can call at 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock at night. Nobody should feel that they're without resources. All of a sudden, the family is saying, wow, this is good. I'm glad we ran into this situation. But that's available to you when you have less than 6 months to live, 6 months and 1 day. Which rehab center do you want to go to? What's your plan around that? Ask yourself this question. You're laying in the hospital bed. You can't speak for yourself. The nurse is saying to your power of attorney agent, which is your planning around this issue, and the nurse is saying to your power of attorney agent, you know, your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, they'll be okay, but we need to now boot them out of the hospital because they don't belong here anymore. Here's a list of 8 rehab centers. Pick the one that you want us to send your mom or dad to. How much guidance does your agent have about what answer to give? They've got a power of attorney, do they not? What does the power of attorney say, how the agent is going to answer the question? The foundation of a manual of instructions. You don't have those answers. We have every ability to coach and guide and plan to have the care coming down to the house. But you have to pull the pieces together differently. And if you don't do that, then you have a housing hope, but not a housing plan. That's housing. Let's move on to finances. Yes?
Will the hospice be there if you live longer than 6 months?
Yeah, they recertify. I've got 2 or 3 of my clients who've been on hospice for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Right? So hospice is not something that's going to come and provide 24/7 care. They're going to organize your family and give them the resources. The largest of the caregiving will still need to be done by either your family members or you're going to now look at the financial, how can I hire people when I don't have unlimited amounts of money? So hold that thought. I think I'll connect the dots. If I don't, see me after the seminar and I'll be happy to kind of talk to you. Let's talk about financial planning. What does the financial industry talk about? And this is your answer I think I'm going to give you. The financial industry is all about you need to buy insurance products and you need to let us manage your wealth and we can help you with lots of money. We can grow your money. How does the financial industry make money? By selling products, by managing your money. Everything you hear coming out from that industry is buy a long-term care policy. And I hear that a lot. I mean, indeed, Tom, before he left up here, he said, oh, I have a long-term care policy. In my heart of hearts, I'm saying, ask yourself this question. Does your policy, or indeed any policy in America, long-term care policy, have a provision that says because you bought your policy, we guarantee you will not end up in a? Is there any policy that has that clause? Answer is no. All a long-term care policy is money. When you don't have money in your bank, you've transferred the risk to the insurance company. It's just money. The company could care less where you're going to use the money. Whether it's at home, whether it's in the care facility, they're just going to make the money happen. So everything about in the industry is about money. All right, so that's not a bad industry. They're not bad people. They're decent people. Surely money should be enough. So how much money? How much money do you think you will need to have before you can get total assurance that you will not end up in a nursing home? Does anyone want to take a wild guess? How much money do you think you'll need? That was your question. 500,000? Yeah, $500,000. All right, let's test that out. Who's this guy? $15 million guy. Forget the name. What happened to this guy? He had dementia. He ends up in the nursing home. He dies in the nursing home. So clearly $15 million is not enough. Who's this guy? $50 million, Tim Conway. $50 million, dementia, nursing home, dies in the nursing home. $80 million, gets dragged from California to die in Gig Harbor, Washington. The point that I make is the financial industry makes money by making sure you have lots of money because that's how they're going to help you. That's how they help themselves. In the end, the question the financial industry is never going to ask, which is 100 times more important than how much money you have. What assurance do you have that when you are ill, when somebody else is going to manage your money, they will know how to use your money so your life is what you want it to be? This is the last time you've seen any ad that plays out from a financial industry that says it's not the amount of the money, it's the use of the money that will be more important. Your question, how much money will it take? That's the wrong question. The right question to ask is, I have $300,000, I have a house, I have 3 children, this is my reality, this is my health. Help me come up with a way, how can I make this $300,000 last the rest of my life so I don't become, my children don't become unpaid caregivers and I'm not broke paying for this care. That's the right question to be asking, but we don't ask. I did a interview just recently in New York. I was last week or the week before, and I had sent them the book. I had talked to them. I had primed them about the work that I do. What is the host question asking me? So how much money do you think the average consumer should be saving each month from their paycheck? What percentage? Saying, you don't get it. It's not the amount of the money, it's the use of the money. I have helped people with very little money when they can pull all the resources and assets together. Assets are not always financial assets, they can be human assets. You put it together, you can have a much better plan. So let's talk about another aspect, which I think your next question is. The biggest financial threat that you're going to be facing, the single biggest financial threat you're going to face in retirement is if you fall ill and Medicare refuses to pay your bill. Why would Medicare refuse to pay anything? Because what you have is long-term care in nature, not acute care. Heart attack, stroke, cancer, diabetes, cholesterol, broken bones covered. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, old age, frailty, not covered. That's what's not covered. What's the cost? $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. Not one time a month, it's every month you're living. But there are different ways you can cover that stuff. The first thing is, and again, I've been doing this, and remember, I'm looking at this through, and you and I, ma'am, had this conversation outside, and you talked about your nephew, and I'm from India also, so I'm looking at this aging process through Indian eyes. I'm not looking at it through your eyes. And when I start looking at families who are hiring people, if you had to hire somebody, a caregiver, to come to your house to take care of you or a loved one, who would you call? Who would you call?
They have an agent.
An agency, right? Visiting Angels, Home Instead, Comfort Keepers, you name it, all of these people. What will they bill you? 40 to 75 bucks an hour. Do they pay the employees 40 to 75 bucks an hour? Where are these people that I can hire directly? Care.com, McDonald Employment Agency. I bet in the LA area you got at least 8 to 10 agencies that are dedicated to help you. The day that you're in the hospital and the nurse is saying to your child, your power of attorney, which rehab center do you want to take someone to? Will they even have the cognition to think about, oh, I better start thinking about where can I find caregivers directly and pay them a third what I'm going to be paying a care agency? No, you have to pull this stuff together. They have to have it at the ready. You're going to call this person will help you find the direct caregivers. You're not going to have to pay all that. So that's one way you can do that. You've got money, great, congratulations. You can go ahead and learn how to not burn through money just because you have it. That's one. Another way of doing that would be buying a long-term care insurance policy. Is that something I should look at? Well, I don't know. Everyone should look at it. There's a reason why only 8 or 10% of Americans have a long-term care policy. Why? Because only people who have looked at the policy today and looked 15, 20 years in the future and said, 15, 20 years in the future, when I'm retired on a fixed income and the premiums are doubled or tripled, will I be able to afford that premium? The answer is yes, yes, this is a good policy. The answer is no, you have no business buying this policy. So who do you go to for insurance advice? An insurance agent? The wrong person. You need to go to your financial plan and say, write me a financial dashboard. Show me what will my present needs be, what will my future income needs be, and do I have the bandwidth to be able to afford this premium? If the answer is yes, then you say, go to an insurance agent and say, this is the amount of money I want to invest in a policy. Not more, not less. This is the amount of money. Show me what you can give me. Third option, not going to buy a long-term care policy, reverse mortgages. Really? But I've heard all sorts of nasty things about reverse mortgages. A reverse mortgage is nothing other than the reality. You've got a house that's paid for, you got equity stuck in there. A reverse mortgage will allow you to take equity out without having to make a monthly payment to the bank. When you die, then somebody is going to have to sell the house and the mortgage will be paid. But with a reverse mortgage, straight mortgage, it's going to be the same issue, isn't it? Is this a good thing to buy? Only for those people who have looked at their life and said, I have absolutely certainly made sure I am never going to leave this house again. I have a house that's age-friendly. I have the financial means to afford it. And I'm living within 2 to 5 mile radius of my healthcare agent, because the day that I become ill and money is used to hire caregivers coming in, Who will be there to make sure these caregivers show up, don't take advantage of you, don't leave you neglected, don't steal from you? If you don't have all these three things pulled together, you have no business looking into a reverse mortgage. All it'll do is to eat up equity in the house. And then if none of those things are going to work for you, then the next thing that you're going to look at is VA and Medicaid. And now, mind you, I'm Washington, so the laws I'm going to give you are the Washington laws, just as an example. You have better laws in the state of California. You can access Medi-Cal much more easily here than I could help my clients in Washington state. Just know that. I had a conversation last night with a buddy of mine who's an elder law attorney, and he was just scoffing at me. He says, this is not what we do. It's much easier up here. So that means you will have to go seek an elder law attorney, not just an estate planning attorney. So how do Medicaid and VA work? Here's how they work. Spend your money down to nothing, then come look us up. That's how they work, right? We've heard about this. Spend your money to nothing. When you have nothing, then come look us up. So what does that look like in the state of Washington? Here's what it looks like. My in-laws, Bill and Vivian. Bill has Alzheimer's. Vivian goes to Medicaid, says, I need help. Medicaid says, we'll help you, Vivian, no problems. As soon as you show us that Bill only has how much money? How does that make you feel? Now, if you are married, what else do you have? No, more important than that. If you're married, you have a spouse. The critter sitting next to you, right? And their laws say, Bill can only have $2,000, but Vivian, you as his wife, you can have one house of any value. You can have one car of any value. You can have $60,000 to $48,000 in other assets. You can have a prepaid funeral plan, burial plots, cash value in a life insurance policy. You can have all the personal property in the world you've got. And you can have what else? Where does it say that you have to be broke in order for Medi-Cal or Medicaid to cover your bills? It never has. You move the money out of Bill's name, put it in Vivian's name. And let's just pretend they have a house, car, $400,000, which is roughly their reality. They've got that much money. No problems. The house is not a problem. The car is not a problem. Oops, $60,000. Let's pretend she can only have $60,000. She's got $400,000. That's the problem. But the last bullet, unlimited income, means that the night before I'm going to apply for Medi-Cal, I'm going to go to your financial planner and say, guys, that $340,000, the $400,000 portfolio is $340,000 too rich. Take $340,000 that portfolio, put it into a Medicaid qualifying annuity, turn that money back to Vivian in form of a monthly income. She gets the money back, Bill gets Medicaid right now. The first time that I heard this, ma'am, okay, so you move the money out of Bill's name, put it in Vivian's name. House, no problems. Car, no problem. $400,000, that's where the problem is. Too much money. Now I go to your financial planner, whoever your planner is, and I tell the planner, look, I mean, you're helping Vivian with a $400,000 portfolio. I need to apply for Medicaid. This $340,000 is too much. So take $340,000 out of there, put it into something called a Medicaid qualifying annuity, give it back to Vivian in form of a monthly income over the next 5 years. When the money comes back, reinvest it just the way that it was invested before, and Bill will get Medicaid right now. It is never said. And that is a heartbreak. I mean, I knew my father-in-law many years afterwards. He had passed away. We were cleaning out some paperwork, and I ran into this form called DD-214. Some of you may recognize that. If you're a veteran, that's a discharge paper. And I'm looking at this, and I was asking my wife, Jamie, I said, your dad was a veteran? Yeah, in the Air Force. He should have had VA benefits. Where was his lawyer who should be counseling this stuff? Single people.
You talk about married, how about widows and single?
Oh, so the next one. I should either pay you $5 or you should pay me $5. Somebody should, right? Okay, single people, what do? Single people, you can have how much money? What don't you have as a single person? Right, so unless you want to rent a spouse for a few days, Bad idea, no matter which way you go. Even though the laws say you can have a house with equity up to $1 million, you can have a car, you can have prepaid funeral plan, burial plots, cash value, personal property, but what? If you have a house and Medicaid is covering your costs, they will put a lien on the house. And when you pass away, the house will be sold. The money will be reimbursed to the state to pay what the state has paid for you. If there's extra left over, that can go to your children. And I'm saying to single people, having a house with a lien on it is like having nothing at all. Give your money away. And Medicaid has got a different rule. Have you given away any money in the last 5 years? Meaning you can get Medicaid as long as you have not given away anything of value in the last 5 years. So married people, the 5 years does not apply. You can move money from a husband to a wife, wife to a husband, no problems. You move money to anyone other than a spouse. Have you given away any money away? So you single people, when do you want to do this planning? 5 years and 1 day before. And go to Walmart. I think they have a crystal ball on sale that'll tell you when you reach that. Yeah. There's another financial gap. And so how many of you have a retirement plan to your name? IRA, 401k, something like that? Yeah, pretty much everyone. All right. I moved the house out of Bill's name to Vivian's name. What kind of tax do I pay? Nothing. No money changed hands. I moved the car out of Bill's name to Vivian's name. What kind of tax do I pay? Nothing. I move $400,000 in a savings account from Bill to Vivian or a brokerage account, investment account. What kind of tax do I pay? Nothing. I move $400,000 from your IRA, from your 401k. What kind of tax do I pay? How about $160,000 worth of nothing? Remember, this was a trick question. I'm setting this up. Remember the deal you made with the IRA devil? I put the money in there pre-tax. I take the money out. All of that is going to be taxable. And oh, by the way, you're required to take money out from an IRA when you turn age 73 under the new rules. All of that is taxable. There's no exemption. And I'm saying, where is your financial planner? Where is your accountant who should be looking at this stuff and saying, look, if you're a small to medium-sized estate, for any reason you have to move money from an IRA to somebody else in future, for whatever reason, let's start moving small amounts of money every year into a Roth IRA, into a Roth 401k. But don't do it in one sitting. What tax bracket are you in? I'm in the 12% tax bracket. Only move that much money that you can move and still stay in the 12% tax bracket. And do it again and again and again. If I had $400,000 in a Roth IRA that I moved from Bill to Vivian, what kind of tax do I pay? 0. Why is this information not there? See the point I'm making? The point I really am trying to make is, it's not that you don't have the planning. You have the planning. But the planning is from different perspectives. A financial planner's perspective is, why do I want my client to pay any taxes when they don't have to? They don't have you becoming ill and needing long-term care in their mind. And to them, the answer for long-term care is a long-term care insurance policy. Is it a good answer? Of course it's a good answer. It just may not be the right answer for you. So you have to go through this whole list and say what belongs, what does not. Ma'am.
My question, because I was an old person, back on the previous slide, you had unlimited income for the married couple, but it didn't say unlimited income for the single person.
Right. So that's a great question. Let me answer that since you opened that Pandora's box, and you can thank this wonderful lady who confused you. But I will give the best answer I can. Medicaid focuses on assets, not income. When I am, just let me finish my sentence here, right? See if I can get it. If I am on Medicaid, I have $4,000 per month in income between Social Security and a small pension. And I am accessing care either at home or in a care facility, and the bill is $9,000. Medicaid, Medi-Cal will say, Rajiv, take your $4,000, pay the bill, and the difference between your income and the bill is what we are going to cover. Right? So when you're looking at Bill and Vivian, the ill person was the husband, Bill. His income I cannot protect, it'll have to go. But Vivian is not the person applying for Medicaid, so Medicaid does not look at that income. Therefore, she can have an unlimited amount of income. But in the single person case, there's no spouse, so therefore we don't even ask that question. Does that make sense?
Because they're focusing on assets.
Exactly.
Income is irrelevant
Is irrelevant
in the case of a single person.
in case of a single person.
So if let's pretend I was getting book royalties or whatever, does not matter.
Correct. Of course, yeah. Did that answer your question, ma'am? Okay. All right. So you have to look at all these. In the book, I really go through a whole litany of list things that you really need to focus on and figure this out. Don't wait for other people to do. You have to educate yourself. That's the whole point what I'm making. All right. Let's look at legal planning. I'm a lawyer, went to law school. Oh, Mr. Lawyer, you're going to have to solve 3 problems for the clients who walk into your office. Problem number 1. Most people who walk through your office to you, they probably have accumulated stuff over their lifetime. None of them will take it with them when they die. So who do they want to leave this stuff to after they die? For that, you'll do a will or a trust. In California, you'll do a trust. It's malpractice not to do a trust. And so who gets what when I die? That's what the trust is going to do. Problem number 2, there's death, there's illness. If somebody becomes ill, life does not come to an end, life continues. And we need to give somebody the power to manage finances, manage healthcare, do everything we were doing for ourselves. Therefore, you have a document called Power of Attorney. Now, this document is interesting in that this document is only valid while you are living. The moment you die, this document is going to die with you. That's when the will or the trust are going to take over. So who will manage my life if I become ill until such time that I die? That's problem number 2. Problem number 3. There's death, there's illness, there's the in-between. What's the in-between? I'm laying in the hospital, my body is shutting down, I'm dying. But the doctors are running around, no, we can put you on a ventilator, we can give you a feeding tube. And the question is, do I want a feeding tube when I'm in a coma? In other words, how do I want to die? So with the typical person's estate plan, make no mistake about it, you are now ready to die. Look at the rest of your life. What's more important? I don't want to be in a nursing home, don't want to be a burden, don't want to die broke. Ships simply that passage in the ocean. So how do you protect yourself? What are your planning opportunities up there? A better planning opportunity is to understand the notion of a safe harbor trust. Elder law attorneys is who will give you this answer. Estate planning attorneys will not give you this answer and manuals of instructions. So let's go through both those concepts up here. Mind you, I am talking to you from a Washington state perspective. It is imperative that you understand that you don't take and implement this in your state. You have very different laws here. And you do need to go see an elder law attorney here locally. So what's a safe harbor trust? So again, I'll go to married people first, and then I'll come to single people. Married people, California, community property state. Let's pretend that was, I can't imagine, this was your state in California. This is, you put another 1 in front of the 7, maybe it's your state. But the point is, the dollar amount doesn't matter. The concept is what I want to go and impress on you. Whatever your estate is between a spouse, it's 50-50. Community property laws in none of the states, Washington, California, Wisconsin, all the other states where community property lives, Nevada is, I think, another one of them, none of the states say that when the husband dies, the husband must leave his half to the wife. When the wife dies, she must have to leave the husband, half to the husband. You can leave your half to Rajiv, he'd be a happy man. But if I was looking at your will or trust and I went to that paragraph, boy, my jokes are just bombing. I can't help you anymore. If I can make you smile at those jokes, I can't make you smile at all. If I was looking at your trust today, which most of you probably have, and you're married, and I get to that paragraph that says, when I die, I'm leaving my 50% to, who are you leaving your 50% to in your present document? Spouse. Right? Why? I want to hear that answer. And the answer is, oh, because I love my spouse, because I want to make sure that she's taken care of, that he's taken care of. And it could be any number of reasons, right? It could be that my spouse has suffered enough already. My spouse might kill me if I didn't do that. It doesn't matter why. That's what we do. So just look at this now. Rajiv Jamie, 350. Rajiv dies, leaves his money to Jamie. Jamie has her own money. She has it all. She is now wealthy? No. Single. Remember in the previous slide when I said married people just move the money from the husband to the wife? Highly unlikely husband and wife are both going to die at the same time. More likely than not, one of you is going to survive the other one. As a single person, if I needed to look to Medicaid, Medi-Cal, that's when your problem, your question becomes so important. Because as a single person, I have to spend it all down to $2,000. Why would I want to do that when I can instead say, when I die, because I love you, because I want to make sure you'll never be broke, I'm going to leave my money to a safe harbor trust for you. Because this was not your money, no government can require you to spend this money down to $2,000. This is your answer because as a single person, you cannot protect income. And if you can't protect income, I will probably need some money to add to Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal is not a good program if you want to stay at home. One, you've got a long waiting list here in California, which we don't have in Washington. And number two, here they don't provide 24/7 care. They'll provide limited amounts of care at home. I will need a bucket of money that I can add to Medi-Cal to pay the person, the same person who's helping you for the 8 hours that Medi-Cal will pay for, or 6 hours. I can use this money to pay for the extra hours so that your children don't end up becoming your unpaid caregivers.
That means, please,
Say again?
you're single,
Yes.
if you're single, and do the same.
No. I'll come to single in a second. So just a second. I promise you I'll cover your answer. So this is for married people, right? Single people, what do? Spend your money down to $2,000. And the better answer would be transfer your money to a safe harbor trust today. The problem you single people have you given away any money in the last? When do you want to do this gifting? 5 years and 1 day before you fall in.
So we can do it now. You can do it anytime.
Make it simple. Explain it.
Oh, make it simple. You're asking me. I thought you were going to make it simple for me. Okay. Simply put, you have a house, you've got a car, you've got $400,000, $600,000. After you look at all the things you want to accomplish in life, one thing you say is, well, if I have long-term care, I don't want to go broke because the cost will be too expensive. So I am willing to take $400,000 of my cash assets and the house and put it into the safe harbor trust today. From the moment you put the money into the safe harbor trust, you will not be able to qualify for Medicaid or Medi-Cal for up to 5 years. But 5 years and 1 day after, no problems, that money doesn't belong to you.
Belong to you.
It doesn't belong to you for Medi-Cal to say spend it down. No, you're not. Who is your beneficiary? Who are you wanting to leave this money to? So if you're going to leave it to UCLA, then you're going to have a professional trustee manage this trust. If you're going to leave it to your kids, then you're going to name your kids to be the trustees of this trust.
Other word beneficiary.
You want to be the beneficiary. While you're living, you want to be the beneficiary of this money. It's only after you're dead, then you don't want to be the beneficiary. Yes. But somebody else has to be the trustee. Medicaid looks at control. That's the litmus test in Medicaid. Who has control of this money? Oh, no, I gave up control over it. Then we will not count it as your money. Okay? So that's Safe Harbor Trust. So far, what I have talked about up to this point is really talking about that plan. Health, housing, finance, legal. I promise you, you have a plan. I'm not denying that at all. I'm challenging you to be open-minded and seeing can I do better than what I've done? Healthcare should be about prevention. Housing should be about predictability of outcome. Financial should be about not amount of money you have, but how do I make what I have last the rest of my life? What do I need to do there? And then you take a look at legal, and now I want to turn these legal into manuals of instructions. Here's the interesting observation that happens when you're a lawyer. We are telling people to prepare documents like powers of attorney. Why? Because you don't want to become a burden to your children. That's the reason why you're doing powers of attorney. When a lawyer is saying, by having a power of attorney, you will not be a burden, here's what the lawyer is saying. If you became ill without a power of attorney, you will have to go through a process called the guardianship process. You're all familiar with the guardianship process, right? Didn't have a power of attorney. I need to go to court. I need to get a judge to appoint somebody with the power to do things. But you can avoid the guardianship system by doing a power of attorney, a few $100s, and you have avoided this problem. So a lawyer's thinking about a burden is a guardianship. In real life, I'm saying, okay, so you got a power of attorney. Now, play along with me up here, please. Let's say you can't manage your finances today. You have a power of attorney. You've named somebody as your agent. Your spouse, your children, somebody. What will that child need to do using the power of attorney? Say again? Control. But practically speaking, how are you going to control? You'll have to pay bills. Do you guys file a tax return? File my tax return. Does somebody manage your money? Do you keep an eye on your bank balances and money coming out and stuff like that? So manage my money. What if the plumbing starts leaking in the house? Do you think your power of attorney has some obligation to get that fixed? What do you think? Yeah? So let me understand this. You have a power of attorney. You're hoping not to become a burden, even though you are requiring them to pay your bills, file your taxes, manage your money, take care of plumbing, your car, your dog, your cat, your cow, and everything else in between. How do you square that off? How do you square off saying I won't be a burden when you have told them? A power of attorney has made it that you won't be a burden to anyone other than the people you've named in the document. The people you've named in the document, you have guaranteed you will be a burden to them unless you have manuals of instructions. What's a manual of instruction? It's step-by-step directions, not enough to go ahead and just have a boilerplate document that we lawyers are trained in law school to do for you. These documents will be used to affect certain things, certain steps they'll have to take, put them down there. Have outcomes in mind. Just hoping that everyone will know I don't want to go to a nursing home doesn't mean anything. 70% of Americans don't live out their lives at home. Write down in the power of attorney, when you become responsible, the first thing you have to shoot for, you want to help me access the care at home if at all possible. And this is how you're going to do it, and you lay out the steps for them. And I'll give you an example what the steps are. That's how you're not going to be a burden. And more importantly, that's how your life is going to be what you want it to be, not what other people want to make it for you. And for that, you have to give some tools. And the tools that I give are portals. And so I'll come and show you the portal in just 1 second. So what is, and the last piece in all this is the education. Recognizing that none of the documents you prepare will you use yourself. These documents will be used by your agents. Sit down with them. Make sure they understand. It's less important you know what you want your kids to do. It's 10 times more important that they understand what they're being asked to do and how. Yesterday, I did a family meeting from here, and I do most of these on Zoom now. And highly talented people, neurosurgeon, nuclear scientists, these are their children I'm talking about. And the parents are pretty darn wealthy, and their kids are sitting up there. And they start asking all sorts of these questions that neither the parents nor I had answers to. Imagine these questions coming up after dad falls ill or mom falls ill. Right? That's the education, understanding. Listen to their input. Make sure that everyone understands what they're going to do. Because your documents will probably have to be rewritten after you have had a meeting with them. Your idea may not be exactly what their idea is going to be. So once you have done all of this, now you give them a portal. Here's the thing the visual that I have is so you've done all this planning, you're laying in the hospital, and the nurse is saying to your child, your agent, which rehab center, what answer do you want them to give? I know the answer you want them to give is, hey, take me back home if at all possible, right? Or is anyone saying, take me to a nursing home? But how are they going to make that up? Here's how. So this is the tool that I created. This is when the pandemic happened and we all got shut down. I had 2 years of nothing to do. So this is what became my visual. And I've always said that if, there's no difference between an Indian child and an American child. The difference is the Indian child is born knowing that when mom and dad grow old, we will take care of them, and the oldest boy will be stuck taking care of them. The oldest boy will also, which you don't know. You know the first part. Here's the second part that you don't know. The oldest boy, to the exclusion of everyone else, will receive the house as his inheritance. There are fights sometimes in families. Who's going to take care of mom and dad? Because with that comes the house. And I've always said that. The difference is we know what we need to do. So here's the tool. Just pretend for a second you're the agent for somebody else. And this is my own tool my wife is the client here, and I'm her agent. So I go to this website, I plug it in, and it says, oh, hi, Rajiv, welcome to the agent portal. Pick the reason why you're here today. Oh, I'm here to learn my role. I'm here to execute my role. I'm here to access the legal documents that have my name on it. No, I'm here to execute the role. That's really when I'm in the hospital. I need to know what to do now. It's for Jamie, right? Yes. Which role are you trying to execute? Are you trying to manage her health care? Are you going to be managing finances? Which role are you going to be managing? Health care. So what happened to Jamie? Is she ill, which is healthcare power of attorney? Is she dealing with end of life, which is a living will? Did she pass away, which is your trust or your will? Or is she dealing with mental health issues, Alzheimer's, dementia, that sort of stuff, which is a mental health advance directive? Oh, she is ill. The first thing that you should do at this point in time is to let all your 3 children know that you have started to take over for mom. Why? Because if you fall ill and you can't do it, they are the next ones in line, and they should know what you're doing so they can continue. By clicking continue, you can create that message right here. Letting you know Jamie is unwell. She is at the hospital at the moment. We'll keep you posted about her progress as I know it. We'll post progress on LifeBridge, so do access that tool also. No need to come right now. I'll let you know if your presence would be necessary, but you're always welcome to come anytime you want. Dad, text. This came to me. My mom had a heart attack many years ago. She had come here from India, and she had a heart attack. She had open heart surgery. So my focus was all my mom. That's all she was for the first about 12 hours or so. And then it dawned on me, I need to let my siblings know that mom's in the hospital. So without something like this, you're on the phone. So this is US time, that's India time, 12 and a half hours away. So we are awake, they're sleeping, they're awake, we are sleeping. So I leave messages. In the morning, the phone calls start coming back in. And it becomes this tree that's going back and forth, right? This is a much better tool. You do it, sit down, now everyone knows. Where is Jamie right now? Is she in the hospital, home, or other setting? She's in the hospital. What do you need help with? Do you need help with discharge? Is that the issue, or you're just having some trouble at the hospital? No, I need help with the discharge. I want to make sure that she's able to come back home or something. Oh, Jamie selected you to work with Alexis Carter in the role of a geriatric care manager who will work with the hospital to organize Jamie's care coming to the home. If coming home is not possible, then Alexis will help you select the facility best able to help Jamie. Your only job should be to make sure that no one's taking advantage of Jamie, leaving her neglected. Now these are steps that you're telling people, and they have to be customized to what you want. This is an example of what I did in my life. Yours could be very different. You are going to call this one, and this is what the outcome that you're striving for. So contact Alexis Carter. Email, text, or call. Here's the phone number. No, I want to email her. Well, here's the thing. My name is Rajiv. I'm the agent to one of your clients, Jamie. I've been directed to contact you for help in getting her discharged back home, if at all possible. She is at this hospital, this room number. Please contact the hospital immediately. Send. Oh, now that you've contacted the care manager to organize care coming to the home, understand Medicare probably will not cover these costs. You need to call the elder law attorney to see whether it is time to look at VA, Medicare, Medicaid, or some other program. Contacted the lawyer? Yes. Email, text, or call? Email. Here's the email, boom, gone. Now that you've contacted the care manager, click here to see what the care manager should do for you. Click here to see what the lawyer should do for you. Click here to go into the file cabinet so you can access all the legal documents right now, right here.
Is this only good for Washington State, or is this?
This is global, dear. This is global. Financial role.
But the documents have to be.
Yeah, you have to, this is the tool that I've created because I see this drama go on. It is relentlessly predictable. We know what's going to happen. But if we just have the tool that, like a Lego set, gives you the instructions and we all make the Lego set. Imagine you had a 300-piece Lego set with no instructions. How many people would make the Lego set? That's what life is. No instructions. Financial. This is where you find out what bills you need to pay. This is the information you need for taxes. Maybe this is probably where you'll say, this is my accountant. Go to the accountant. My financial planner, or this is where my accounts are. Whatever you're going to do behind each one of those things is the answer that your agent is going to need. So that's where I'm going to ask you to answer this question for yourself. And if you don't have a 100% confident answer, oh, I got this, then you really need to be humble enough and say, okay, what do I not know? And the question is, so what do you do with me? There's no doubt in my mind, life plan, hands down, is a much better way to do retirement planning. And over 23 years, I've seen it in action. I've seen people who would have otherwise ended up in care facilities lose money, but they had it all, and good things happened with them. And so what do you do next? And this, I'm going to basically say, look, I got my book here. If you want to take a look at the book, you can get them. This is all on Amazon, so long live Amazon for all this stuff. You can do as little as just pick up the book and read it. And I've done everything that I can to make sure that you can at least start educating yourself before you start going to financial planners, lawyers, doctors, etc., what you need to do. There's a workbook that gives you step-by-step direction as to what you need to do. You can choose to just go to agingoptions.com. You've got all sorts of resources that I've created. There's in the same pandemic time, we created an academy. Basically, it's a video training is what it is. It just walks people through each one of those quadrants, health, housing, finance, legal, family, and gives you tools to go and pull it together. I have people who fly to Seattle to do work with me. So I will never be a lawyer. I'm not licensed in California. But I have people who will fly from Texas, from Illinois, from New York, and I'll pull everything else together for them, and I'll guide them, and then I'll get them local resources to work with. So what you do, the challenge that I'll give you is do something with this information. Right? I mean, you have it done. You have done a good job planning your retirement. You deserve now to take it to the finish line in a good fashion. So with that, I'll open it up for Q&A. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. This is one of the quietest crowd that I've been in. All right. If not, I'll say age on everyone. Yes, ma'am.
Personally handle clients, or are you going back to the Seattle client?
It's limited number of clients. When people come from out of town, I will guarantee I will see them because I can't imagine someone flying there just to be disappointed. So I will make sure. But locally, I've trained enough people in my office now, they do it. And every now and then I'll take some cases on. But yeah. Ma'am.
Do you have a network, I mean, you're obviously here, but do you have a network of local to the places that you're going, gerontologists or elder law lawyers that are obviously versed in the laws that are here? Because I moved back from New York, which I didn't expect to live there as long as I did, thinking I was going to help my sister take care of our elderly parents.
So, yeah, I mean, that's hard, sorry. But it's good though, you were there with everyone, and you know, this is real life example that no one's going to leave mom and dad by the roadside just because they don't have a plan. We are all going to get stuck in our lives. There's a,
You know, you made the comment about long-term care.
right.
When I moved to New York, I was concerned about it, so I was going to buy long-term care for both my parents. My dad wouldn't qualify because he had diabetes. My mom did. And so I paid for it until she's like, oh, you don't need to pay for that anymore, I'll pay for it. You know, after dad died, she's like, I'll pay for it. And then we didn't even end up using it. But my concern is, like, I know people who do estate planning documents, who set up charitable remainder trusts, work with foundations, all of that. But this is a different situation than tax avoidance, uh, tax planning. This is who's gonna take care of you. You're in that boat.
And the short answer is, yeah, I do. Instead of having resources that I can say with confidence they know everything I do because I have not trained them, I bank on educating you and giving you sheets and information that you then give to the planner and say, can you help me with these issues? If they say yes, great. Some people will hire me, and then it'll become my job then to interview these people and make sure that you're getting to the right people. So it depends how you want to do it. I mean, the least expensive way, just buy a book, read that. The most expensive way, fly down to Seattle, spend a couple of days there with me, and I'll probably take about 4 to 5 hours of your time and pull together a plan. It'll take us about a year to implement everything. So, because you're going to do one thing at a time. Health, that by itself is going to take you about 2 or 3 months. Housing, that's going to take probably about 2 or 3 months by itself because you're going to look at, do I want to live at home? Do I want to go to a retirement community? Who is in my support group that I will be able to count on? How much do I want to put on them? Then we do a family meeting, and by the time we come up with the answer, 3 months, easy. Finances, you're going to look not just as how you're investing the money, but every angle of the whole thing. Pulling together a team of people so you don't become a burden, etc. It does take me about a year or so is the average time that I spend on one case when I'm working with people directly. So, great question. Thank you.
Have you had a lot of experience having to deal in the court systems and the judges and lawyers that are involved in handing over control or probate or any of that? Have you had a lot of experience with that?
So that, I've been a lawyer 23 years now. The first about 12, 13 years, I did relentless litigation. Because that's why this is a wrong. This to me was a constitutional wrong. It went all the way up to the Washington State Supreme Court several times. And we ran and established certain rules that I wanted the state to follow. But for the last 10 years or so, it gets to a point where that's too much. That's not what I want to do.
I have friends who have been in the court system, and it is horrendous.
It is. I mean, it saps you. So, yeah. But I don't know whether that's going to impact anything that you want to do. It's the exact opposite. I want my clients never to end up in a court. I want my clients to have predictability that they're dependent on themselves and their family is all with them. Everyone knows exactly what to do when the time comes.
And then the problem that my friends have had is that they were assured of the trust and all the rest of that with lawyers that were supposed to be reputable, and they run into dead ends.
Yeah. So I couldn't answer that, don't know what the situation is. So I'm,
It's scary, and I'll tell you the word fear. You were asking some questions, and
right.
immediately my mind went to fear of the experiences I've seen others have, and it's horrendous. Thank you for being here, by the way.
Oh, of course, no, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much. Gave me a chance to come out to the sun. Only the sun is now coming as I'm getting to the airport. But it's all the same. But thank you so much, everyone. I'll stay back if you have any questions. I'll stay back to answer your questions one-on-one.
We have some refreshments out in the courtyard if you'd like some refreshments out there. Can we thank Rajiv for being here?
Oh, thank you.